Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Daily Reset. This is week 3 of the Shift Your Mindset month. We are serious about shifting mindsets. I hope that you are beginning to notice certain awarenesses, certain observations that come to you easily. You're catching yourself in some situations when you are deviating from the path you have selected to go. That is the beginning. We will continue the conversation around foundations, but I want us to approach it from a different perspective. If you were a car and you were operating at a certain gear most of the time, let's say, for example, you have 5 levels. You have 5 levels, and in this case, the levels just determine one is higher than the other, so that 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. And you are a car, you have already taken off. Now you are cruising, and you have the choice of cruising at one of these gears. The first level of awareness is asking, what level do you believe you are operating at? At what speed is your car cruising at currently? This is not about what you want, it is what level are you at currently? Are you moving at a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4? And what does that mean to you? This is not something, you can't get it wrong. Do not overthink it. It is simple. If you are a car, if we want to rank you, rank how you are moving, how you are operating, how you are showing up for the things you say matter the most to you. At what level are you showing up? Are you showing up at a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or 5? If you are showing up at a 5, I need to create a separate session during the daily reset so that you can actually run some of those sessions for us, because I am not always at 5. That is my desire, but I'm not always at 5. Where are you most of the time? I hope you have a number. And the beauty is that you have the power to shift. And when you shift the gear, you shift with a direction in mind. You shift with a level in mind, knowing where you are shifting from and where you are shifting towards. We spoke about this during the last breakthrough meeting, the foundations. And I gave you this acronym, foundation, with the 10 pillars. I would like you to do an experiment. Whether you do it as I describe it or not, it depends on you. This is the experiment. I want you to open a blank page. If you have a screenshot of this slide, I don't want you to look at it. Okay? If you have a screen, don't worry about the one I'm displaying for now. Just open a blank page. Don't write anything down on that blank page. Okay? And I want us, so everyone that I can see on the screen, that would be who I count on to follow what I'm describing. All right, so you have the 10 pillars, okay? You have a blank page. You don't have any other reference, okay? In the next 30 seconds, the first step is to read all of them down and read them again as quickly as possible. So focus on goal setting, openness to growth, unwavering resilience, nurturing relationships, deep self-awareness, action and accountability, trust and integrity, intrinsic motivation, optimistic outlook, never-ending learning. That is the first part. The second part is write the acronym down, foundation, and fill in out of your memory as many of them as you can without referring. I won't be there to score you, so even if you get 100%, it doesn't help me. Fill them out. Write foundation vertically and fill each one of them out. Foundation, there are 10 pillars. These 10 pillars give you 10 different lenses to look at your life, to see which of them you need to bring more awareness to, which of them need more work. So let's see how many of them can you reproduce. These are pillars. If they are going to be valuable to you, you have to be able to sit down during your break or lunch or when you leave the office and just think without any paper and think mentally, today, how did I perform on F? How did I perform on D? How did I perform on I? I do not expect you to get all of them correct. And that is the goal of this exercise. The goal is to make them familiar. Now everyone knows intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. You know it. If you have attended just 3, 4, 5 sessions, that would be enough for you to know it. That's because of repetition. So the third part of this exercise is for you to look at this. So turn your head away from what you've written. I would like you to stop writing. Turn your attention away to the screen, okay? Just turn your attention away to the screen and you read them with the intention of remembering all of them now this time round. You read each one of them and see how they relate to each other. Do not worry about what's on paper, what you missed, what you're going to write now. Just pay attention to them as though you are seeing them for just one last time and you won't see them again. Trust your mind, not the paper. Trust your mind. Trust your mind to receive them and capture them. Okay, so here they are. 10 pillars. Foundation. Focus and goal setting. O, openness. U, unwavering. N, nurturing. D, deep learning. A, action and accountability. T, trust. I, intrinsic. O, optimistic. N, never ending. The secret is to remember the first word. If you remember the first word, the second word latches onto it like a story. F, focus and goal setting. Openness, it won't be openness to relationships, it will be openness to growth. The other O, optimistic outlook. So if you remember foundation and you remember each of the first word, focus, openness, unwavering, nurturing, deep, action, trust, intrinsic, optimistic, never ending. The other part will follow. So the fourth part of this exercise, so you to open a blank page this time round. Open a new blank page. Open a new blank page, write foundation, and now see how many of them come to you. Just write them out down. Working on the mind is one of the core ingredients of the breakthrough challenge, both the breakthrough and the transformation challenge, working on the mind. The truth is that we haven't gotten to do as much of that because we've spent a lot of the time working on the foundations, on the real primary foundations which we've been covering all along. And now these are the pillars, these are the lenses that can help you begin to bring all those ingredients together. In writing your personal vision, it will be very easy for you to just write foundations and then write your vision around each of these areas. How do you view your life around optimistic outlook, deep awareness, openness to growth? How do you view yourself? If you write a vision guided by these 10 pillars, you will actually have a clear, compelling, and meaningful vision because you have a vision that moves you in a lens that carries intrinsic meaning. So come back to the slide again and look at them and see which ones did not register the first time. Focus, openness, unwavering, resilience, nurturing relationships. The second word latches on automatically. Deep self-awareness, action and accountability, trust, integrity, intrinsic motivation, optimistic outlook, never-ending learning. So if I achieved anything this morning, is to give you this outline, this acronym foundation, as the basis to begin to pull together a lot of the things, a lot of the content that we have already covered. For example, when you think about the concept we spoke about, a main actor and supporting actors, where does your nutrition and sleep and physical exercise fall? It will find a home somewhere on one of those Fs. So these Fs, it provides you a really comprehensive, multifaceted, and powerful model that you can use to write your personal vision for the remaining part of this month, for the remaining part of this quarter. Where does focus show up? Where does your intrinsic motivation show up? If you are lacking in intrinsic motivation, so we can figure out why that is the issue, so that it becomes a lens through which you look at your life. So the gear that you selected, if you tell me the gear, I can approximate how many of the pillars you are probably working with. And of course, that means I can also estimate how many pillars you are neglecting. If you tell me one, I know that at best you are steady or somehow steady on at most 2 of those pillars. If you tell me it's a 5, you have more than 8 of those pillars in good health. And that's the power of this simple acronym. It gives you, it touches on crucial ingredients, remembering that your faith is not a separate pillar. Otherwise, I could have made F faith. Your faith is not a pillar. Your faith is the glue that holds all of them together. It doesn't become, it forms the platform on which all of these pillars will be glued. So you now have the 10 pillars. It's time for you to do this inquiry. Number 1, how many of these pillars are in your foundation? You look through them and tick each one that is an active ingredient that you, in one way or another, pay attention to. So in other words, which ones of this are essentially already part of your life? And this first question is not about how strong they are. It's just a question of whether or not those pillars are actually present in your life. The second question is, how many of these pillars have you mastered? So first of all, out of the 10, tick the ones that are in your life, actively in your life. Which ones have you mastered? And the final question, how many of the pillars are you neglecting? How many of the pillars are you neglecting? If you tell me the number, the gear number you are operating at, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I can estimate how many pillars you are neglecting. We tend to neglect pillars that don't seem to have immediate consequences. Except, not everything that doesn't have immediate consequences does not have consequences. In fact, the things that matter the most are not the things that have immediate consequences. It's the things that have ultimate consequences. Your openness to growth, for example, when you end up making decisions just based on what's immediate right now, ends up becoming the ultimate cost, ultimate price that you pay in the long run. And sometimes you pay the price when you have no room to go back and correct, no room to go back and improve, no room to go back and explain yourself. The pillars that we end up paying attention to are those that seem to have more immediate consequences. And I don't know from this list which for you are the pillars that seem to have more immediate consequences. And if you look through all of them, you will realize one thing, that almost all these pillars, the one thing they share, almost all of them, they don't necessarily have immediate consequences. Generally, almost all of them have ultimate consequences. 10 years from today, the picture of your life will say exactly which of these pillars you paid attention to, which ones you neglected. Therefore, shifting your gear is not some sweet verbalization or affirmation that you make. It is the hard, difficult, messy work you do to actually start building on and improving and mastering the pillars that matter the most to you. You may not have to start with all 10. You can narrow down to the ones that matter the most and start with mastering those. And if you would start with one pillar, Start working consistently, passionately on one pillar today. It will be deep self-awareness. Because deep self-awareness is what would help you answer the question we started the session with. If you were a car and you had 5 gear levels, what gear level are you running at? It's possible that even the number you gave yourself is not the accurate number. You might be operating lower than you ranked yourself. You might be operating higher than you ranked yourself. You might be ranking yourself based on an incomplete picture. And that all boils down to the depth of your self-awareness. Which of these pillars are in your foundation of the 10? Which ones have you mastered? Which ones are you doing well, in other words? And which ones are you neglecting? And neglect is worse than being weak. The things you neglect, they don't even count. Even if they are present in your life, they are just decaying. The things you are weak, it means you are doing what you can from time to time. At least you are doing something. The ones you neglect, they are rotting in the corner, like that lost one pair of socks that is lost and it's somewhere hidden in a closet and it's just accumulating dust. Which of the pillars have you mastered? Which of these pillars are you neglecting? If you were to pick 5 of those pillars, which ones will you start with? These are really heavy questions that we've already addressed at the beginning of this session. But this is extremely crucial. Intentionality gives me the power to embody the identity God designed for me. Intentionality gives you the power to embody the identity God designed for you. Every single time we read this foundational precept, do not forget the gap between me and me. The gap between the you now and the you ultimately. The immediate you and the ultimate you that you are designed to become. There are many ways to respond to that gap. You can embrace that gap and start building and utilizing it as motivation to keep going, so it gives you intrinsic motivation. Or you can become scared of that gap and stop because the gap is too big. What I have learned is that whenever you have a really meaningful goal and there is a big gap between you and the goal, that gap is your opportunity to be set apart. It is the difficulty, that gap, the distance is what sets you apart. If it was easy, everybody would do it. If you all remember at a time when in Kenya there was the craze about rearing quails. Succeeding in rearing quails is way over there. But what's the easy part? Starting. And everybody wanted to start. The gap is your opportunity to be distinguished, for you to be set apart, for you to be differentiated. So the question is, the gap that is meant to differentiate you, will you let it stop you or will you let it motivate you? The gap that is meant to give you distinction, would it become the reason why you stop? Or does it become the reason why you show up and do it? Because you know that not everybody is going to do it. In fact, only a minority are going to do it. And so that for you, the gap for you is the gap between the gear you are operating at today and the gear you would want to operate at. There is a gap. Do you want that gap to be the motivation or do you want it to be the demotivator? Do you want to be the reason why you start or the reason why you stop? Everything you ignore in the 10 pillars of your foundation will have ultimate consequences. Unfortunately, you might find yourself paying the price when it's too late to go back and make amends. What if this is the opportunity you have to start intentionally building the pillars that are weak, and dust off the pillars that you had neglected, and start creating a personal vision that is meaningful and that is balanced and comprehensive, that is consistent, that is adaptable. And you get there by, first of all, becoming aware. Start with that deep awareness, and then dusting off all the other areas, becoming more open to growth, becoming more committed to never-ending learning. And as you carry these pillars together in a balanced manner on the foundation of faith, you will realize that ultimately you will have less price to pay because you have paid it immediately. You pay it in this immediate step, on the next immediate step. Gradually, you no longer have to worry about the price that you have to pay. Intentionality gives you the power to embody. This is how you give body to the identity. You give body to the identity by working with a balanced vision, a vision that is powered by real, tangible, intentional pillars that are well thought out, that are intentionally crafted to support your life in such a way that you pay. What you ignore in the foundation will cost you in the stability of your building later. You can paint the house how many colors you want and design it and do interior design whichever way you want. If the foundation is faulty, the house is faulty. Someday you have to go back and repair the foundation. You might find yourself trying to repair the foundation in the middle of a storm, and that is the worst time to try to repair the foundation. You work on the foundation before the storm is here. This is my opportunity to continue working on my foundation. Maybe this is your opportunity to continue working on your foundation. Maybe to start working on your foundation depending on how strong you feel your foundation is right now. Intentionality gives you the power to build the foundation that is necessary for the identity God designed for you. And this week 3 of Shift Your Mindset, we are masters. You are the master of your focus, and it's your job to wield your focus like a leader, a role model, and a problem solver. This week, we are operating with the identity of a master. Maybe it's your chance to challenge yourself and see how many of those foundations can you master. Not in terms of becoming perfect, but just being aware day to day about what is going on in each of your foundations. Maybe this is your opportunity to sit down and write a vision. And this will be my suggestion for writing a vision that is based on the foundations, on the pillars of the foundation. Describe your ideal self under each of those foundations. If you were operating at your ideal in self-awareness, deep self-awareness, what would it look like? If you describe yourself in each of those areas, in nurturing relationships, what is your ideal? In intrinsic motivation, what is your ideal? If you describe yourself under each of them, and then you transfer that content into one continuous document, you will have probably one of the most profound visions you have ever written for your life. So that I stop and you stop thinking of vision as something that is far removed out there. But sometimes we have this beautiful vision. I want to start a school for children in the slums. It is removed from here. If it doesn't have a foundation here, it becomes an idea that I can easily become discouraged from. But if it finds a foundation within, there is this big platform of faith, and then it has all these pillars, and I'm working on each of these pillars. If I need to shoulder something else that is external, it finds support, it finds stable support, and that's what we are all seeking. The agreement of the week: do not make assumptions. This week, do not make assumptions. It's time for you to do your declaration of intentionality. I will hide my video. Time for you to do your declaration of intentionality. And then after that, we will proceed with the daily reset. So you can begin whenever you are ready. Remember, we are not reciting it. We are doing it. You make sure you actually feel it. You don't just say the words. The words are the smallest part of the declaration of intentionality. In the past, I felt powerless. I allowed external forces and limiting beliefs to hold me back. Yet today, I am seizing back my power. Today, I am determined to direct my intentions, master my focus, and take command of my actions. I am determined to shape my reality with purpose. I am willing to carry myself as a leader, role model, problem solver in all situations. Proceed with doing your daily reset, and then as soon as you are, I'll give you a couple of maybe 30 seconds. I would like you to go ahead and share one line, one key takeaway from the first part of the meeting, and let's share the permission line. What do you permit yourself to experience, to know, to feel, to work on, to pursue, to receive, to notice, to expand, to intensify, to multiply, to renew, to reset, to re-engage, to recalibrate, to celebrate, to recognize, to acknowledge, to honor, to uplift, to create, to conceive, to deliver. What permission are you giving yourself today? If you're new, the daily reset is those 5-prong statements. It allows you to create a deep intention from multiple perspectives. It gives you 5 different lenses. The main intention line is the second one, but we add all the others to make sure that it's not limited. Now, please proceed to the chat box to share your key reflection. Ideally, your reflection shouldn't be a reproduction of something that I necessarily say it directly, but you phrase it in your, what is your strongest impression from that first part? In other words, what is it that is uniquely the one thing you carry just based on what you picked from the first part of the meeting? Could you please go to the chat box and drop your reflections? That way we can save time. And then after the meeting, please remember to run the tapes of last week. How well did you direct, master, and command your life last week? And how well did you wield your self-control? And then create your mindful day. Imagine you have lived today magnificently. How did you live it? See it in your mind, receive it emotionally. That's the most important. So you receive it and you say it and write it. But of those 3 ingredients, the emotional reception is the most important, and then go out and live it. Go out and live it. Could we go to the chat box? We are at 6:05. I would encourage you to don't wait until you've done your daily reset to share in the chat box. If we just go ahead and drop what you have in the chat box, then you continue with the rest. It saves everyone time, and you also would end up picking a lot more from other people. I am going to start reading the ones I have, and we'll probably finish once I finish reading the ones that have come through. That will be the close of the meeting. Wangoi says, building the foundations will narrow the gap between me now to me in the future. Thank you, Wangoi. Fanny says, what I ignore in setting up my foundation will cost me later in life. Absolutely. Absolutely. Gladys says, the key lesson today is the realization of the gear I am operating at. Today, I permit myself to be deeply self-aware. Thank you, Gladys. Mary Joy says, my foundation is determined by my willingness to act now. That's beautiful and succinct. Thank you, Mary Joy. Esther says, I have the power to shift. The time to start is now, so that in 10 years' time, I will not suffer the consequences of neglecting my foundation. I love it. When Jiku says, work on my foundation before the storm comes. Thank you, Wanjiko. Betty says, if I don't work on my foundation now, I may have to repair it when in a storm, or it may be too late to do anything. And Betty says, I permit myself to shift to the next gear. Thank you, Betty. If I don't see any new ones in another 3 seconds, we will conclude the meeting. Florence says, I need to work on the pillar of deep awareness to increase the speed of acceleration on the other pillars. That is beautiful. Absolutely. Deep self-awareness is at the center of everything else that you work on. Always revolves and comes back to and reflects the depth of your self-awareness. At the count of 3, 2, 1, 0, that's all the reflections that have come through. Please remember to do your mindful day and to run the tapes. That will be the end of our daily reset, the formal daily reset. Please continue doing your work and get ready for the week. Get ready for an amazing week ahead. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We are here every day, the rest of the month, unless something changes. My name is Dr. Job Mogire from the House